So a brief introduction to Daniel Stracey, who is the Chief Inspiration Officer at Dub. To give you a background at Dub, they describe themselves as a cutting edge of the fast-shifting world of market research. And anyone that's involved in marketing will realize that market research as an industry has kind of woken up over the last 2 years, sort of seen as a sleepy corner of marketing for so long, no more. The amount of new approaches in market research these days is quite phenomenal, hard to keep up as an agency. I can't imagine what it's like for a brand. Dub provide data capture and engagement tools for researchers, marketers, planners, and strategists to deliver insight, generate new ideas, and ultimately increase profitability. I don't want to say too more because I don't want to steal his presentation. But Dan is a community specialist. Before joining Dub, he's worked at a number of other firms, Promise, Communispace, and Interquest, so he's highly qualified to talk to you today. He describes himself as a researcher at heart. He's an insight and human behavior specialist and currently works across many clients, including big names such as Philips, Asda, Colgate, and many more. And he'll be talking about how crowdsourcing inspiration and insight can build better innovation, which, as you may have just seen, is a topic very close to my heart. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Guy. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This is me, and this is my company, Dub. Eventually. Good point. Okay, I recently joined the team. This is Izzy, Stephen, and the gang over in Old Street back in the beginning of the year. So my role is, in essence, to help our clients, our partners, to design better research and engagement programs for a variety of different applications. I run various short and long-term programs for business-to-business and business-to-consumer clients. And in essence, my role is to advise clients on best practice and design better programs to enrich the level of feedback and insights that result. So the work that we do at Dub, in essence, turns the spotlight away from the ideas to the people themselves. So we connect with brands, with customers, in intensively moderated networks. So these programs could last anything from several days to several weeks, in some cases several years. And we undertake research to explore trends, evaluate, develop concepts and products and services. By agreeing the rules of engagement up front, we have a lot more scope to explore different topics through these long-term programs. We can establish rapport, gain that trust that's required to really develop that understanding. Our clients are very broad-ranging. They range from research agencies through to brand specialists and ad agencies. We're very pleased to announce that we recently added LinkedIn to our roster of clients. We're running an employee engagement program at present, looking at ways to develop a service proposition. I can't really tell you too much about it. It's highly confidential. But it's quite possible that we could all be using this in the next 5 years. I'm also working with a major multinational FMCG brand to help them understand more about UK customers and justify their super premium price positioning. So just a quick flavor. In fact, since 2007, we've run over 2,000 communities in total. So we like to think that we know a thing or two about undertaking these research programs effectively. So on to the topic of today, the man, the legend himself, Robert Cialdini, PhD. I first discovered Cialdini's work as a student at Goldsmiths when I studied psychology. So he does a lot of work into understanding compliance professionals. He's a social psychologist, gained prominence in the 70s. His work's had a lot of resurgence recently. And he's undertaken countless numbers of interviews for the past 35 years, understanding the techniques that people employ to increase the level of compliance, the likelihood that people will state yes to requests and behave in various ways, which we'll be discussing in line with the principles that he's identified. So why should we be interested in Cialdini's work? Well, it's because Dan Pink would argue we are all now in sales. Essentially, by sales, we're not just referring to tangible aspects such as cash, but the non-tangible aspects to such as time, effort, and people's attention. Indeed, Dan Pink's work estimates that we spend anything up to 40% of our times in our roles engaged in non-sales selling. So it's really important to understand when we're persuading, influencing, and convincing others to agree to our requests. Cialdini has 6 principles that he outlined. For the purpose of today's presentation, I'll be sharing 3 of those just to fit in with the time. And these are, essentially, we'd all like to believe that we make rational choices on the basis of all the available information that we see, think, and hear. But in actual fact, we resort to mental shortcuts to come to quicker conclusions. This can produce an automatic, almost mindless compliance. And this is the argument of Cialdini and his research. I think it's really important to understand these different biases that exist if you want to run an effective research program and engage consumers around a particular topic or a particular research plan, and I'll be discussing those very shortly. So the key benefits here is that we can manage bias and effects to the advantage. We can enhance the quality of feedback through establishing rapport and gaining trust and consent. We can increase the levels of participation in our programs. And also, as researchers, we can experiment and have more fun. This brings us on to the first of the principles. Reciprocation, i.e. the golden rule, something consistent across cultures, but simply states people feel obliged to give when they receive. So if somebody sends you a birthday present, you'd be much more inclined to remember that they have a birthday or indeed reciprocate and buy them a gift. And the same goes for parties, etc. And you can see this across social media, Facebook and Twitter, etc. In a social context, we are, of course, bargaining for people's time and for their commitment. To illustrate the power of this effect, Cialdini undertook a lot of research at restaurants, and he looked at the various gifts that were supplied at the end of a meal. So you'll be familiar with the mints that are supplied or various other things. If a waiter will place down a single mint, tips will increase by 3%. If there are 2 mints, the tips will increase by basically quadruple overall. If the waiter places 1 single mint down, then walks away, returns and says, "But for your love, you people, here's a few more," the level of tips will increase by 25% overall from that previous point. So the crucial thing here is to be the first to give and provide a gift that is personalized and ensure it's seen as unexpected. When it comes to enhancing engagement, if you're running a crowdsourcing program or a research program, this is really about being first to share in order to have people reciprocate and share more information about themselves. Here it can be really important to temper your client's needs with the interest of the people that are involved in the program. So by understanding what interests them and what motivates them, you can integrate this into your plan and make sure that they're at their best when they participate. What I feel is essential is to create a story that everybody wants to be part of, and the planning is absolutely crucial at this stage. It's really important, too, to avoid making requests that you yourself feel uncomfortable about sharing or fulfilling. And I think it's also great, once you've established that trust, to seek control of the research agenda and have people undertake missions on your behalf. The second tip is, the second principle is commitment and consistency. So in essence, this is our obsessive desire to be and to appear consistent with the things that we have said and done. Once a choice has been made or a stand has been taken, people will encounter pressures to yield, but they will typically behave consistently with that earlier commitment. The reason being is that society values and rewards consistent individuals. We would like to be seen as helpful, trustworthy, and loyal. This provides reasonable and gainful orientation, and it's the very foundation of our society. Cialdini's team of researchers undertook research into gambling, and they looked at the level of confidence that people rated on a survey before and after they had made their choice of which horse to back in a race. And the overall confidence increased by something like 30% after they'd placed their bet. And of course, there was nothing different about the riders or the horses that were involved in the event. It was simply that people had become more convinced that they'd made the right choice. They kind of reassured themselves after they'd made that decision. And no doubt they felt better for doing that. Cialdini's research reveals that the more public the commitment, the more that people are likely to comply. And further to this, written commitments are more effective than verbal ones. Another example is a road safety campaign in the US, undertaken by the US government. They were looking for people to put drive safely boards in their lawns to promote driving safely. Very few people agreed to comply with this request. However, in a nearby town where people had been sent out stickers, there was 4 times the number as a result of that initial request. And having agreed to that initial request, maintaining that consistency that people felt perhaps helpful and supported the agenda. I see opportunity here to enhance levels of commitment when it comes to running a program by clearly stating the rules of engagement up front. I think it's really important too to scale up crowd requests, so to make smaller requests in the initial parts of the program before asking for more time-demanding activities, for instance, or indeed sort of like consider like the level of energy that people will invest in the program. It's really important to think about that too. It's absolutely essential to have that trust gained before making those larger requests. If you're carrying out research in a community, you can go about rewarding helpful behavior, sort of provide subtle cues to kind of like reward quality feedback and allow other people to see that. And I think the other thing too that is really important to consider is to kind of like close the loop, to sort of make people understand and realize that they are being helpful to you and to your clients as well. A third and final principle for today is consensus. So people turn to the behavior of other people when they're feeling unsure about how to behave. So for this reason, we have canned laughter in sitcoms, etc. It's likely if you've been staying at a hotel, you'll have seen a small card persuading you to reuse the towel that's there in the hotel for the purposes of saving the environment. This will lead, on average, to something like 35% compliance overall. Research has shown that over a 4-night stay, 75% of people will comply with this request. However, if you actually state that information back to people, tell people that 70% of people are doing this, then the compliance will increase again by 26%. So it's an absolutely massive effect. So by pointing to what other people are doing, in particular, other people that are considered similar to yourself, it is much more likely that people will comply. This is, of course, used to great effect by Amazon. This is a product that I recently purchased for my electric guitar. We see that, first of all, that the product is listed as one of the #1 bestsellers in the category. We know that customers who viewed the item also viewed several similar items. And then when it comes to delving into the feedback itself, to support that purchase, a certain number of people will have considered the information to be helpful. Again, sort of reaffirming that confidence in the purchase. So here, it's absolutely essential to consider the bias that is introduced when we consider commitment and consistency to the program. Of course, you have not only advocates present, you have dissenters, but there is the silent majority, people that need to be energized and engaged into your program. You need to think about how you'll get people comfortable enough to share and to discuss their thoughts and feedback. So here again, it's about calling out great feedback, revealing what good looks like to other people. If you have different groups of people that have different levels of engagement with a particular product or service, you may wish to segment and separate those people entirely and undertake separate programs. You may wish to ignore, dampen down, or probe those people that basically behave in a crowd-pleasing manner. And then it's absolutely essential throughout the program to promote openness and honesty. And that concludes my presentation. I'm actually running a webinar at present talking about ways to enhance engagement, and I'm absolutely on hand to discuss any projects that you may wish to consider. Please feel free to come and talk to me during the next break.
Great. Thank you, Dan.